Hello, everyone. Welcome to our presentation one. Our team is Deal Dive. Deal Dive is an application for finding and sharing local deals across restaurants, bars. Um, we utilize a location-based discovery, so you're able to see where different deals are on a map or list view. And similar to Reddit, we have a crowdsourced voting community engagement with upvoting, downvoting, and commenting in different reports for businesses across your local area. Here we're using Supabase and Express and Next.js, but how we're actually going through and implementing this is within our software architecture design. So here's our software architecture design, but first we're going to look at sort of the front end side of it.
Yep. So as you can see, we'll kind of go down the trajectory of it. The first thing we're going to do once we get a response from the backend is a data transfer object, and that's just for data validation, to make sure that what we get from the backend is in like the structure and type of what we're expecting. And then through the Next.js framework, the first thing that's going to occur is server-side rendering. And essentially, this is loading all of the important information that isn't just essentially basic DOM. So it's going to be all the functionality that's going to happen on the server side before it's flooded to the client side, which is what eventually fills the DOM that you can view on your own end. Um, and that process is called hydration. So it goes from server-side rendering to client-side. This is something that you define in Next.js, which then fills the React components and fills the DOM. Any local changes that you make, basic navigation, changing screens, just refills new React components. Otherwise, it'll go back to the client side, which will then take form of a request and head towards the controller layer, towards the backend.
So as for the backend part of the software architecture diagram, we have it split up into a controller layer, a service layer, and a database layer. The controller layer contains the API endpoints and HTTP request and response logic. The service layer contains the functions that the controllers call to perform business logic. And the database layer contains the database itself, as well as the code that directly interacts with the database, which means all of the actual CRUD operations on our database. And each of the nodes uh, within this part of the diagram, like auth, deals, and comments, correspond to different core components in the program that have corresponding CRUD operations, like users, deals, and comments.
So next we're going to take a look at our user interface designs. We started off with some pretty rough wireframes. Here you can see this is our load-in page, which has the map view as well as the list view for all the deal dives in your area, which are represented by these individual dots on the map. And so far, what we have built out on our front end in our application, we have a similar layout with maps, and we have our navigation panel on the side here. We also thought about creating a list view with different filters, systems, and here's where the list view currently is structured with more details to be added. And then finally, some more of our wireframes that we created, looking at what does a deal dive page look like? How do you create a new deal? What does the account view look like? And then also a business page so you can go in and see what other deals are within a specific business.
And then we designed a BCNF database to structure how users, deals, comments, posts, and tags connect within the project. So users can create a deal, which then can be categorized, tagged, and linked to specific locations. And I guess kind of looking more a little bit closer at it, kind of this platform revolves around users' interactions. So they can create deals, leave comments, and vote on them. And each deal contains certain things like a title, a price, location, and then tagging and categorization for better organization.
Hey, so talking about the project's progress, splitting it up into front end and back end. On the front end, we did some really good work on the navigation, the basic auth flow, as well as the map list view, as well as linting and hook rules. So this was good foundational work for the front end and is setting us good for the future development. As far as the back end, We worked on the database setup and design, as well as creating the database tables, as well as endpoints for CRUD operations for deals. For the future development on the back end on our to-do list is the designing the vote tables, as well as endpoints for filtering, sorting, and geolocation. For the front end, our to-do list is social, auth, hot deals, save deals, filtering, and then we also want to create a business versus a user account. Going into project milestones, talking about this, this just lays out our deliverables for each week for the front end versus the back end. And we made sure to follow this to make sure we were up to date and completing everything we needed to do. And here we just have laid out all of our developer positions and specifically what they worked on.
Yep, so I was front end, so I handled auth, navigation, implementing UI from our frameworks, and handling reception of API calls.
I've been working on the back end, and I've been handling things like API and database design and development.
I've been working on the front end, working with UI UX and our specific user interactions with wireframes and the UI implementation.
I've been working on the back end doing API and database design.
And I've been full stack working on API, database, and UI design.
And that is Deal Dive. Thank you so much for watching.